I have a new brand here for the channel with the Skilhunt M150 V3 flashlight. This one surprised me for how small yet good it is. It has the optional Nichia 519a LED, is dual fuel, so it runs on lithium ion or alkaline or nickel metal hydride batteries, and those two features are what attracted me to it. But I was pleasantly surprised by other aspects. It's a well thought out light for a fair price. And thanks to Skilhunt for reaching out and sending this one to me to review. Links to where you can find it and more will be in the description below. Here is the packaging that the light comes in. It's a nice retail box with hanging features. You've got your runtime charts and some features on it, about what we're used to normally seeing. You do have a number of accessories. You got some extra O-rings, a lanyard here with a threading tool, which is always nice, and a manual. The light does come with a battery as well. And then you've got the charging cable. And this is a proprietary cable with some magnetic attachment point here. And we'll talk more about that later on in the review. So let's take a look at the construction and design. The light is made from aluminum and is anodized in two colors. You've got a black and then a dark gunmetal gray that I've got here. The tail here is magnetic and it's a pretty strong magnet. Holds the light no problem on a horizontal position or vertical to hang as well. That magnet is in the tail cap and is removable in case you don't want it to be magnetic, and that's a nice feature you don't always see. A lot of times they're glued in place. The tail has just some simple knurling for grip to help remove it. It's very effective. Then you've got some milled in pattern here on the body tube, which is a nice feel to it. The head does not unscrew from the light. Inside you do have a spring there, which I'll show you pictures of, and then a post in the head. The pocket clip can attach here either at the rear or the front of the light, and I'll talk more about that later on. Then you've got the button here. There is an LED in the center there, and that's useful for a power indicator. Opposite that is the charging port here, and I have a little bit of problem there. This is probably the thing I dislike about the light the most. When you pick it up, the charging point feels the exact same as the button does. I wish they felt differently. Maybe the charging point wouldn't have this raised bezel on it or added some texture to the button or something. I think that'd make for a better, useful light. You can always pinch both your fingers together to turn it on, but you know, that's just not how I use any other flashlight, so I don't know that that's a great solution. Up at the front, you do have a bezel here that is smooth. You've got an anti-reflective coated glass lens, and then a very light orange peel reflector there with the LED nicely in the center. Retention, there are multiple options for retention here. Starting at the tail cap, you've got the lanyard point here that you can see. You can also attach it at the pocket clip if you wish on both the top and the bottom of the pocket clip. As I mentioned before, the pocket clip is removable. It can go on either this way if you'd like it to. If you want to do a head down carry, easy, or something like that, you can easily, or a head up carry. It works both ways. For me, I like deep carry, so I'm going to put it on in the tail like this. And this is a pretty decent pocket clip. You've got a decent amount of springiness here, so I don't think you're going to catch it as much. This ramp does tend to catch clothing just a little bit, and getting your jean pocket up into this last half-inch area is a little bit hard. Not too bad, and you can finesse it. Overall, it's a very good clip and one of the better ones I've seen on a flashlight recently. One of the things that surprised me about this light is how small it is. It's smaller than a lot of my other 14500 lights. This Ace Beam Pokey light here is also a 14500, and you can see the Skilhunt is smaller. You even got the Olight i3T here, which is a AAA light, and it's a little bit longer than what the Skilhunt is. I can swap in the Workos TS10 here, and that is shorter, but that's about the only one I've got that's shorter. And then I've got a Raylight LAN here, which is also longer than the Skilhunt. With the included battery and clip, the light came in at 2.08 ounces or 59 grams, and that's a nice weight. Let's talk about the LED and beam. Subscribers, and I hope you're one of those, will know that the Nichia 519a is one of my favorite LEDs of the moment. I was delighted to learn that this is an option for the light, and that's what I went with in this example. Your other LED options are a Cree XPL2, which will be brighter and a cooler white and non-high CRI. The Skilhunt mentions a Samsung LH351D on their website, but I don't see that one being sold currently, so maybe that's an older version, or maybe they just decided to replace that with the Nichia here and haven't updated things. So on my Opal meter, I measured the light that I have here at 4127 Kelvin with a 98 CRI. The tint is smack dab in the middle with no unexpected tint shifts. In the main modes and on turbo, on the 14500 battery, it's a constant current. There is some mild PWM on the lowest low of outputs, and on tactical strobe I could see the PWM with my eye, and it almost looked like a rolling shutter. The beam has a large hotspot and a medium amount of spill, and I have no issues with that, and kind of wonder what it'd be like with a TIR optic. I think it might even be a little better. So a quick note on outputs here. The tables that Skilhunt shows in the manual and on the packaging don't mention the LED option that was being tested here. But I can say with high confidence that it wasn't the Nichia 519 because the output differences are substantial. In Turbo 1, the chart says the light should make 750 lumens, but from what I've tested and from looking at other reviewers with the 519 model that I have, you get about 405, 410 lumens. This is something I think Skilhunt should really publish, at least on their website. I don't think it will cost them any sales, as most enthusiasts who are going to be buying high CRI lights realize that you're not getting the brightest LED possible and are okay with that. You're sacrificing some output quantity for light quality. Let's look at the Skilhunt M150 V3 with the Nichia 519a LED. This is about 4100 Kelvin, so it's a really nice warmer tint. 98 CRI. This is Turbo 1, about 405 lumens, and this is less than what they claim due to not accounting and updating the runtime charts for this LED. It reaches the end of the neighbor's fence, which the camera might have a little bit of hard time picking up. So this is pretty decent, 50, 75 yards, no problem. Here is Turbo 2, which is about 290 lumens. A little bit less, but still very effective. The lowest mode in the main group I tested in at about 10 lumens, plenty to navigate in short range. Bumping up, here is your medium 1 is what they call it, 65 lumens, and this reaches to the end of my fence, as you can see there. And last in the main grouping is high at 205 lumens. The light also has two low modes. This is low at 3 lumens and then ultra low at 1/10 lumen. There's also some strobe features here, which I won't show you, but there's a beacon, an SOS, and then a tactical strobe as well. So it's a full featured light with a UI that, once you understand it, is pretty good, but might be a little bit confusing the first few times you pick it up. So I did want to compare it to my Raylight LAN. This is running the Nichia 519a LED as well. It's a warmer version of this LED, and I de-domed it so it's more rosy. And then here is the Skilhunt. Again, this looks really neutral white in comparison, but it's 4100 Kelvin, so it's not that much. But similar LEDs, same 14500 style battery, and you can see very similar distances and performance. The Skilhunt might have just a little bit more performance, I guess. For heat and runtime here, I'm finishing up my runtime test, so I'll insert graphs that you can pause and draw your own conclusions to. In my testing, I did show that turbo outputs for both T1 and T2 are good for the claimed 3 minutes before stepping down. High was able to sustain its output for a solid 50 minutes, which is nice to see. And you really do get the best performance here out of the 14500 battery. Output is out 4 times more, and the bulk of that output is for over double the output for time period. Total runtime when starting in turbo with the 14500 was an hour and 24 minutes. And then for the maximum output with a nickel metal hydride rechargeable battery was about 2 hours and 45 minutes. But you got to realize that most of that runtime is sub 100 lumens. And the highest temp I saw was about 36C. So being my first Skilhunt light here, the UI was unknown. And typically I just like to play with a light at first and see how it works. And at first I didn't like the UI here. However, after looking at the manual and understanding it, it's a pretty good UI that's well thought out and pretty customizable as well. So I have a chart that I printed off. This is also in the manual and on their website to kind of help walk you through this. It looks a little daunting, but it's easier than Android. So I'm going to take a look here. When the light's off, you can one click to turn on, and that brings you down into this normal mode group, and you press and hold to go to high, medium 2, and medium 1. Very standard stuff there. You double press to go to turbo mode, also standard, and then you long press to switch between turbo 1 and turbo 2. Same thing to go to strobe, you triple press when on, and you get these 3 strobe options there, and 2 clicks moves you between options. That's the only one that's a little bit different. It's not a hold press like the others are. You can go to normal from strobe with 3 clicks. The neat thing is here that everything has memory. So once you get this light set up to what you want, it remembers. So say for strobe, you wanted the beacon mode instead of tactical strobe. You set that in the strobe mode, and that's what the light's going to come on to once you switch to strobe. Turbo, you wanted the maximum output, so you go to T1, you set that, you don't have to worry about T2. Your light's always going to go to T1 when you turn it on. And the normal modes here are pretty decent mode spacing. I had no complaints there. Light also has lock and unlock electronically, or it's got mechanical unlock too. You turn it on and you just unscrew the tail cap just slightly. That's what I prefer to do myself. Recharging, as I mentioned before, it's a proprietary charger and cable, and it is magnetic charging here. The magnet on the light itself isn't the strongest, so I don't think you're going to have as much problem with dirt and debris attaching there, which is kind of nice to see there. While it does have a proprietary cable, the battery inside is standard. It's just a button top cell. I'll show you. Pretty simple here. It's rated for 800 milliamp hours. When I tested it, I got 856 milliamp hours. You do have a nice little battery indicator inside the light there that tells you which the polarity you need to use there. So plus side down, just a standard button top protected battery. There is the tail cap and the magnet that I mentioned earlier. Screw it on and you're good to go. When you are charging with the cable, you get a red LED here, blue when charged, and the power level indicator here doesn't work when the light is charging, but it does work when you're using the light, and the light surprisingly does work when charging. Most of these do not. I recharge the light from low voltage protection at 3.253 volts to full at 4.127 volts using the magnetic charging system here in right at 1 hour. Charging started off fairly strong at 0.8 amps. Not the usual ramp on, and peak charge rate was 0.95 amps, so just slightly over 1C. It's worth noting here that the charging cable that came with my light was defective. I emailed Skilhunt about this and they offered to replace it for free. I think it's just bad luck on my part. You can charge the battery externally, and I just ended up using a charger from another light they sent that will be coming up for review here in the next few weeks, months. So my conclusion is that I'm impressed with the Skilhunt M150 V3. It's going to become one of my recommended 14500 lights. It ticks a lot of the boxes with a great emitter option with high CRI if you want it, nice build quality, compact size, and the ability to use 14500s or nickel metal hydride or alkaline batteries. So in a disaster scenario, you know, good choice. It's got a great clip. The magnetic tail and UI here are pretty good once it clicks and you understand it. I'm not the biggest fan of proprietary recharging cables here, but I think the trade-off of being more water and dirt resistant along with using standard batteries is a good trade-off in my opinion. I'd rather have a light that I can buy batteries for easily in the future and charge externally if I had to, rather than proprietary batteries and cables like some other brands have with a similar color scheme. I think you know which one I'm talking about. Overall, this is a light that I'll be recommending. I'm curious if you guys have one, or if you have maybe one of the older versions, and if this is something you might add to your list of flashlights to pick up in 2023. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, I appreciate you guys liking, subscribing, and joining me for the next flashlight review. Thanks for watching.